All right, today we're going to dive into a massive shift in the world of quality management. The big move from ISO 9001 2008 to the 2015 standard. And let me tell you, this wasn't just a simple refresh, it was a total rethink of what quality actually means for a modern business. So let's get right into it. So let's just start with a direct question. Think about it. Your business has changed, right? Your customers, your market, the technology you use, nothing ever stays the same. So the real question is, has your quality system kept up? Because honestly, the 2015 standard was built precisely for the complex, fast-moving world we're all in right now. So why the big overhaul? They didn't do this just for fun. ISO standards are living things. They have to evolve to stay useful. And after getting feedback from users all over the globe, it was crystal clear that the business world had changed so dramatically that the old standard, well, it just wasn't cutting it anymore. And you gotta understand, the goals for this update were huge. We're not talking about minor tweaks here. This was a full-on strategic realignment. The whole point was to make quality systems more integrated, to better reflect the complex world we actually do business in, and, most importantly, to be absolutely laser-focused on satisfying the customer. So, out of all the changes, what was the biggest one? The real earthquake. It was the introduction of a completely new blueprint for the entire standard, and this one change created a domino effect, changing the very DNA of how quality management is structured and implemented. That blueprint is called Annex SL. Now, the easiest way to wrap your head around it is to think of it like a common operating system, like Windows or iOS, but for all new ISO standards. It gives them all a consistent structure and a shared language, which is an absolute game changer if your company is trying to manage more than one ISO certification. Okay, so what does that actually mean for you? Well, the practical benefit here is massive. This common framework means you can finally stop treating your quality system like it's some separate, siloed off department. It's now designed to be woven directly into the fabric of your core business strategy. And that, of course, means leadership has to be way more involved than they ever were before. And what's really beautiful about this new structure is how perfectly it lines up with that classic plan, do, check, act cycle. The engine of all continuous improvement. You can literally see how the clauses just flow logically from planning and leadership to doing the work to checking how you did and finally to making improvements. It just makes sense. This quote right here just nails the first major philosophical shift. It's this idea that leadership can't just sign a check and delegate quality anymore. No way. The new standard demands they get their hands dirty and be actively involved. Exactly. With the 2015 standard, it's not enough for top management to just be responsible for the quality management system. Now they have to be accountable for how effective it is. That means they have to be seen leading from the front, making sure that the quality policy is a real, living part of the company's strategy. They've literally been pulled from the sidelines and put right on the front line. All right, so that's leadership. What's the second game-changing shift? Well, it's a huge move away from just reacting to problems. Now the standard forces you to proactively think about what could happen down the road, both the good and the bad. And this has a name, risk-based thinking. It officially takes the place of that old clunky term, preventative action. But it's so much more than that. It's about understanding that uncertainty is a part of business. And get this, it's not just about managing threats and dodging bullets. It's also about identifying and jumping on opportunities. Okay, so we've talked about the big picture stuff, the new structure, the new philosophies. Now let's get down to brass tacks and talk about the practical day-to-day changes. The actual language of quality got a much-needed update to be more modern and, frankly, more inclusive. Let's just run through a few of the big ones. The old term products was expanded to products and services, which finally brought all the service-based companies officially into the fold. Supplier became the much broader external provider. And those two separate ideas, documentation and records, they got merged into one single concept. And that new concept, documented information, is the one you really need to know. It's the new catch-all term for everything you need to maintain, like your procedures, and everything you need to retain, like your records of what happened. This change gives organizations so much more flexibility, freeing them from that dusty old world of filing cabinets and paper documents. Okay, so you might be thinking, this is a lot. How does a company actually make this move? Well, the key is to change your mindset. Don't see this as just another bureaucratic chore you have to check off. See it as a genuine opportunity to take a fresh, honest look at your business and make it better. And here's a really clear roadmap for that journey. Step 1. You just have to understand the changes. Get your team familiar with what's new. Step 2. You do a gap analysis to see where your current system falls short. Step 3. You roll up your sleeves, implement the new stuff, and train everybody. And finally, Step 4. You use your internal audits to make sure the new system is actually working. It's a simple, logical path to get it done. Now, this transition didn't just happen overnight. ISO gave everyone a window. The new standard dropped in September 2015, and that officially started a 3-year countdown. By September 2018, that window closed, and all those old 2008 certificates were officially obsolete. It was a complete global shift. So, if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. The whole point of the 2015 revision was to break quality management out of its lonely silo. It's about making it a living, breathing, integral part of your actual business strategy, driven by your leaders and guided by a clear-eyed view of your risks and opportunities. And that really brings us to the final and maybe the most important question. The 2015 standard challenges every single organization to look in the mirror and ask, is our quality system just a fancy certificate we hang on the wall, or is it a true strategic driver of our success? The answer to that question tells you everything.